Guys, welcome back. This is the Uncle You Needed. We're going to talk today about plans after high school. And, if I were looking back now with the perspective that I've got, some distance from that time in my life, what would I look at if I were in high school now as far as what to do when I got done? Okay. The first thing that I would do is take a look at what is available in your district. One of the things I noticed kind of looking around, at least in my local area, is that there are programs that are available that are just a lot different than what it used to be. So, for example, this is like some kind of more of a career type high school, and they've got accounting, they've got architectural design, aviation maintenance, animal sciences. If if your family was into agriculture, so just a lot of opportunities out there to really get some solid real world experience before you even leave high school. In a lot of cases, like I know there was one I saw where when you came out, you were basically a fireman. You may not be 100% there, but you had a lot of the training you needed as far as EMT and all the technical training that those guys go through. I know there was another one where there was a vet tech certification. So like when someone came out of high school, they were a vet tech, they go get a job in a veterinary office. And that's awesome because it gives you something that you can build on right there. So anyway, that's the first thing I do. The next thing is I started to just consider all my options. One of those is military. Now, I did not serve, so I'm going to take this at really high level, but it's something I would go through as part of the selection process. And the way I would go about that, first and foremost, is I would start my research on the internet. This is the DoD site. I would not start off going to talk to a recruiter. What I would do is I would start off on the internet, look to see different branches, jobs they had available, give some strong consideration of what I wanted to do when I got out. And then I would, after I did my internet research and including forums, I would look for like forums where people talk about it. I would talk to people who served in the branches. And I've got 5 branches. I think there's actually more than that. But whatever I was thinking about doing, I would talk to people who have served there, probably within the past, 10 years, to really get a sense for like what the experience is going on. And then after I'd done that, then I would talk to a recruiter as far as, what, and I kind of narrowed it down a bit, what the options were. So first off, why would I go down that path? One is, you want to be prepared, don't waste anybody's time. Another thing is really understand kind of what you're getting into, and keep in mind that a recruiter's job is to recruit, and that's in, any industry or whatever you get into. So make sure you've done some research on your own and first. The other thing about that is thinking about the end game and what does that look like. One of the things that I've heard of with the military route is, of course, there's in some cases, there's like, bonuses for certain jobs that you can do. But even if you don't get that, right? Think about if you go in at 18, come out at 22. During that time, you've gotten paid something. And then you probably don't have just a lot of expenses because you're living on base, doing, deployment if that's part of it. But that's something that just absolutely to research. And when you think about it, it's kind of the end game there when you get out. In theory, you don't have any debt, you got some money in your pocket, and you've probably got some sort of marketable skill. So that's the way I would approach that. Another thing to look at would be trade school. Once again, talk to those who have done it. But the reason I'm high on this, and I'm thinking about like welding, electricians, plumbers, is because that's a really easy transition into owning your own business. As someone who spent the majority of their professional life in the corporate world, I can tell you that whole experience of like layoffs and kind of working through that, it's a pain in the butt. And by owning your own business, so you're definitely going to have ups and downs. And, for a while, you're going to have a job in this anyway. That you're also going to have your ups and downs there too. Nothing's perfect. But I think the path to owning something on your own, even if it's just you, is a lot easier to take. So that's something I would definitely look into. But once again, heavily talk to those who have done it. If you think about going that route, like just using welding, for example, see if there's an opportunity in your high school. If there's not, what is it, as far as a trade school, what would you get out? What is the realistic hourly rate going to look like if you get a job doing that? Could talk to people who have done it. Do they enjoy it? What would they do different? Just getting all that piece of information up front. Another one was flight school. I threw this one in there just because this is something I've always had an interest in. And of course, military is a path to that. There are colleges that specialize in that. The reason I threw this on here is because I actually saw in one local district they had a kind of like that aviation maintenance I was showing before. They had a path to get your pilot's license, which I thought that was really cool to have that opportunity in high school as part of your curriculum. So, that's something I would look into. Obviously there, the path being airlines or private or something like that. Anyway, once again, talk to those who have done it, like I said, but I thought that was pretty cool. Another is college. This was my path. This is going to be a must in certain disciplines. I think my only, high level feedback here is that it's not for everybody for everything. I think there was a push for a long time that everybody needed to go to college. I don't know if that's really the truth at all. And I think what that ended up doing was really pushing a lot of those degree mill type places. So this is really something that you're going to do it's a must in certain disciplines, doctor, lawyer, finance, architect, things like that. You're going to absolutely have to go to college. I'm definitely high on it. It was an awesome experience. There's no other time in your life at 18 to 22 where you're going to get a chance to do something like that. I would suggest majoring in something that interests you, in particular, something that you'll do well in. So there's a lot to be said for having a marketable skill when you come out. That being said, if you hate accounting and you barely pass, I would argue that you would do better to major in something you actually enjoyed. I'll just use art history as a quick example. Not a lot of jobs for that when you came out, but I would say you're probably better off getting all A's in that and then maybe doing something in grad school later rather than barely passing in accounting. And you probably, because you didn't like it in the first place, so you may do a poor job in that when you get out of school. But that would just be something I would think about. Really go through the big state school. This is something I did again. That social experience, going to football games, things like that is just a ton of fun. It is something that you won't be able to replicate at any other point in your life. The other thing about big state schools is they tend to be a lot cheaper and a lot more affordable. The only thing, and I'll go ahead and cover the do not, the only thing I would 100% do not do in this realm is go to some small, expensive school and major in something with low demand. And I say, once again, like art history, we'll use that as an example. The amount of jobs you can get with an art history degree, specifically for art history, has got to be incredibly small. Like, I don't know, curator of a museum, things like that. And they're not going to be high paying. So, if you get out with $100,000 worth of debt and you've got a job paying $40 a year, man, you're going to be just paying, you're like a serf. You're going to be paying on that for the rest of your life. So that's the only thing I really would not do with college. But the other thing I've listed up here with social experience, there's a lot to be said for that too. And it really applies later in life and makes you make connections. You're just not going to be able to do that at any other point in your life, that age group and, discovering things about yourself and trying new things and travel and all that. So anyway, definitely high on it. Just things to consider as you look into it. Also want to cover real quick, community college and kind of the 2-year degrees and going that route. I understand that's going to be an absolutely great thing for certain people, certain approaches. Cost is obviously a lot lower. I know in many cases you get as good or probably even better of an education depending on what you're doing. And I'm not comparing 2-year degree like Harvard, but certainly for some of the classes that I took, I have no doubt that someone teaching at the junior college level, they've got a lot of, typically that's people in the industry that have a lot of experience. So you can get a lot of a really good education there for not a lot of money and get out with something really marketable. My only drawback to that is the whole thing about social experience. I mean, obviously, 2-year, not as many of those have I don't know if any of them have football teams. Some of them do, I guess. But, that type of hey, we're part of this. We're going to wear these shirts. We're all, the pageantry, the history of all that goes into it typically isn't there. So I would say it's more of a means to an end, but definitely, I would not knock it at all. In fact, I took several courses of that over at junior colleges over the years, even after I graduated with my degree, just to get, some more education in certain areas. So also something to consider. Another thing is viewing your life in 4 to 5 year chapters. And this is the case even if you stick with something, but and I think people get held up on what I'm going to do after high school because they're so worried that they have to make a decision that they're going to stick with for the rest of their life at 18. And man, that's just really daunting. Even if you do something like this, let's just go back to the military real quick. You enlist at 18 and you stay into it until you retire. But even within that, you could view that in 4 to 5 year chapters of, different jobs you had, different goals. So it's not like you're having to, make this decision that it's going to affect you forever. Or, let's say, back to college, you go to college for, 18 to 22, 4 years. And the next 4 years you work, you find something to do. Maybe the 4 years, 5 years after that, you're thinking about a different place, a move, maybe you want to travel more, maybe you want to work abroad. All of these things, I would kind of start to think about your life in those terms. It makes it a bit more manageable. I think you can accomplish more if you do that. But don't feel like what you choose at 18 is what you have to be doing until you're 62 or 65. That's not the case. You can absolutely make changes. That being said, it definitely gets tougher to change the older you get, depending on your responsibility level. So if you're in your 30s and have kids, definitely it's difficult to have a career move versus say at your 25. So, like I said, just keep that in mind, but there is always opportunity. Leave yourself options. What I mean by that is kind of back to the point about, don't get into something that's going to rack up crazy debt without a lot of opportunity. Back in, some degree that has a really low demand, really low marketable skill, but it costs a ton to get. I just really would stay away from that. I think that's a bad move. Real quick on just kind of run through like some use cases on this, like dentist, right? I get people will say, I don't want to stay in school for 10 years because you're basically a doctor. But I guarantee you 28 or 30, when you pass it, will seem like nothing. Number two, that lifestyle. Most of those guys work like Monday through Thursday for the ones that I've gone to over the years. Man, what a great lifestyle to, be pulling in 200-300 grand, work 4 days a week, probably take, 2 weeks to a month off in vacation a year. That seems like a really awesome scenario. So, kind of think about that end game of what it looks like when you're done. I mentioned again, like the trades up top. If you were to be like a welder, right? And eventually you parlay that into your own business, does that seem like something you want to do? Another example there, like with plumbers, I knew a guy in Austin who had he'd only do new construction. And I could see the benefit there, right? Think about, rather than being called to someone's home to fix a plumbing problem, this guy was only going into brand new houses, laying brand new PVC pipe and water and all that kind of stuff, and not having to deal with the stuff on the back end. So, things you can get into if you want to make those types of decisions. Anyway, just some things to think about. If you have any comments about what you think you would like to do, or if you're past that point and comments on what you think someone should take into account, feel free to leave those below. Thanks. Have an awesome day.